and welcome to the daily English news program on Azerbaycan Television. With you, your host, İlham, with most important events of the day. On August 24th, President İlham received in a video format Faik Gurbatov due to his appointment as head of Biləsuvar District Executive Authority and Elmir Bağırov due to his appointment as head of Saatlı District Executive Authority.
Stressing that great trust had been placed in the newly appointed heads of executive power of Biləsuvar and Saatlı regions, President İlham expressed confidence that they will show themselves averse of this trust. The head of state instructed first of all to properly analyze the situation in the regions, to identify existing gaps and shortcomings, to address the concerns of the population, and in the event of difficulties, approach to the central executive bodies, to presidential administration, the cabinet of ministers, and relevant ministries. People should feel your concern. You must visit all the villages, meet with the citizens, and familiarize with the existing problems and solve them. I've said this repeatedly. I want to say once again that if the existing problems in all villages of our country are resolved, then we can raise our work to a higher level, the head of state said. President İlham emphasized that a lot of work has been done in the regions entrusted to him by the state and at the expense of the state funds within the framework of the state programs for the socio-economic development of regions. All infrastructure projects are being successfully implemented in the regions, a significant part of which has already been implemented and completed. Now the fourth regional development program is being implemented. If the first program had not been adopted in 2004 and other programs in subsequent years, then today the regions of Azerbaijan would not develop like this. In all regions we have either summed up or are very close to completing major infrastructure projects. In particular, the issues with electricity in Biləsuvar and Saatlı regions were resolved. Gasification is close to 100% and should be 100% in the coming years. Gasification should reach 100%, the head of state said. Noting that highways are being built and projects related to drinking water have been completed, President İlham said that this has always been a very serious problem for both Saatlı and Biləsuvar regions. Urban residents are already supplied with drinking water that meets the standards of the World Health Organization. At the same time, these issues are being addressed in villages through modular treatment facilities and artesian wells, and this should be given special attention in the future, including irrigation issues. Because both last and this year the drought created big problems for citizens, preventing the development of agriculture at a faster pace. Considering that Saatlı and Biləsuvar are grain-growing and cotton-growing regions, of course the water factor is very important there, the head of state stressed. Emphasizing the effectiveness of the reforms carried out in agriculture, which shows an increase over a period of 7 months, the head of state once again reminded of the big problems in connection with the drought, stressed that the main goal in both grain growing and cotton growing is increasing productivity. Recalling that the average productivity in grain growing in the country this year exceeds 30 centners, President İlham said that in farms where modern technologies are applied and problems with irrigation are solved, this figure has reached 70 centners per hectare, which is comparable to the level of the most advanced countries of Europe. Noting the need for the right approach, compliance with all agricultural rules and solving irrigation issues, the head of state said that direct and indirect investments in the development of agriculture, including in infrastructure projects, have served to great development in recent years. Significant work has been done to ensure the transparency of subsidies allocated by the state and the implementation of reforms. President İlham noted the need to exercise serious control over subsidies allocated to farmers, emphasized the role of local executive bodies in this matter. The development of entrepreneurship is directly related to the overall development of the country. Our economy must maintain stability and strengthen. The non-oil sector must develop. President İlham said and recalled that until 2020 this development was rapid, but due to the pandemic there is a decline in all countries, including ours. But in our country, this indicator is a rather low level. In 7 months, the economic decline was 2.8%, which can be regarded as a great achievement, since in some developed countries, the decline reached 30%, in the European space up to 20%, in the Eurozone about 15%. But in the non-oil sector, in particular in industrial production, there is a development 13%, which for the current period is a historic achievement which we have achieved through the development of business, issued soft loans and responsibility of entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurial class that has already formed in Azerbaijan plays an important role in the development of the country's economy, and the executive authorities should support them. Noting with regret that in some regions entrepreneurs are oppressed, artificial obstacles are created for them, local executive bodies demand bribes bribes in a share from them. The head of state said it is absolutely unacceptable and strict control in this matter is necessary. Government officials should support entrepreneurs and they are only required to pay tax to the state. Along with this, entrepreneurs must help the poor. In Biləsuvar and Southern regions where internally displaced persons expelled from the native lands as a result of the military aggression of Armenia against Azerbaijan, all conditions were created for them. President İlham said and recalled that the first settlement, which was opened with his participation as head of state in the Biləsuvar region, stressed that the newly appointed heads of district administrations should also pay special attention to migrants, that the state always provides them with support. New houses and villages are being built. We should make efforts to make investments in the regions you managed to attract both local and foreign investors to the regions. No region can develop without investment. True, today most of the work is carried out at the expense of the state investments. However, the development of the private sector, of course, requires investments, the head of state said. President İlham said that during the pandemic, economic activity in general dropped very much and noted that it is impossible to predict when it will recover. Referring to agriculture, the head of state noted that the main hopes here are in local investors. Stressed that Azerbaijani entrepreneurs who invest tens of millions of dollars in investment in foreign countries first of all should think about the homeland, the people. Therefore, addressing Azerbaijani entrepreneurs, I say that under the current conditions, your funds should work for the benefit of the country's economy. President İlham said, adding that the business climate in Azerbaijan is improving from year to year and we have achieved historic success in the framework of the Doing Business program. The head of state noted that the president and the government will continue to support entrepreneurs. Therefore, in the current conditions, it would be wrong to invest large funds in the foreign countries. However, this cannot be prohibited by legal means. It can only be controlled, and the relevant structures of the country must seriously monitor this. I believe that after these words, the private sector will invest more both in the economy of the country as a whole and in the regions. The head of state said and noted that the heads of regional administration should create good conditions for entrepreneurs, and this in itself will lead to the creation of new jobs. Indeed, there is a need for this, since as a result of the pandemic, some people temporarily lost their jobs. Therefore, the state extended a helping hand to them. Noting that people who have lost their jobs, including those working in the informal sector, receive financial support from the state, President İlham stressed that the record number of paid jobs will be created this year. The number will reach 90,000. The criminal actions of all the recently arrested chief executives were almost the same. It's shameless to encourage on the money of the poor, even with minimum wage. There should be a very strict control mechanism over this issue, both from the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection of the Population and local executive bodies. This issue is under my control. The fight against corruption and bribery in Azerbaijan is not in words, but in deeds. The head of state said and noted that this fight is highly valued by the people. Speaking about the fact that there are cases of corruption and bribery in all countries, and the main issue is how the state and the government approach the issues, there is a zero tolerance for this phenomenon in Azerbaijan. President İlham recalled that not only heads of local executive bodies, but also heads of central executive structures, and the issues are widely covered. The public must be aware of all the work being done. The work of the newly appointed leaders will be judged correctly and fairly by the people. I am sure that you will work in such a way that people will be satisfied with your work. At the same time, you must earn the respect of people by your behavior, the head of state said. Expressing regret that in many cases government officials do not know how to behave, believing that they are provided with some privileges, seriously violating laws and traditional norms of behavior, President İlham said that when he is reported about such cases, they are immediately given appropriate notice, and these people either receive administrative punishment or are prosecuted. President İlham expressed confidence that all his instructions and recommendations will become the main principles in daily life of the new appointees, and soon the public atmosphere in Biləsuvar and Southern regions will improve and the development of the regions will be ensured. The head of state congratulated the new heads of the executive power and wished them success. Expressing gratitude to the head of state for the high trust and attention shown to them, the head of executive power of Biləsuvar region, Faik Qurbatov, and the head of the executive power of Southern region, Elmir Bağırov, assured that they would make every effort to justify the trust of the head of state.
Sağ olun, uğurlar arzulayıyorum size.
On August 24th, President of the Republic of Azerbaijan made a phone call to people's poet Fikret Goja. The head of state congratulated Fikret Goja on his jubilee and wished him new successes in his creative activity and the best of health. Emphasizing Fikret Goja's special contributions to the development of Azerbaijan's literature, President İlham noted that his works had always been followed by a wide audience. The head of state said that Fikret Goca was awarded by the Istiglal Order and congratulated him on this occasion. Expressing deep gratitude for the warm words and congratulations, Fikret Goca described the conferment of the Istiglal Order upon him as a high recognition of his creativity by the state, stressing that national leader Heydar Aliyev always paid great attention to Azerbaijan's literature and culture. Fikret Goca recalled his meetings with the national leader. Fikret Goca underlined that this tradition had today been successfully continued by President İlham Aliyev and once again thanked for the attention. President İlham Aliyev addressed a letter of condolences to the President of Georgia, Her Excellency Salome Zurabishvili. The letter reads as follows: Dear Madam President, we were deeply saddened by the news of many casualties as a result of the bus crash in the territory of your country's Dusheти municipality. On the occasion of this tragedy, on my own behalf and on behalf of the people of Azerbaijan, I extend my heartfelt condolences to you, families and relatives of victims, to the friendly people of Georgia, and wish the recovery to the injured. Sincerely, İlham Aliyev, President of the Republic of Azerbaijan. On August 23rd, subversion and reconnaissance groups of the Armenian armed forces attempted a provocation in the direction of Goranboy region of the front. However, the units of the Azerbaijani army took decisive measures and forced the enemy to retreat, incurring losses. Experts note that all the responsibility for the incident lies on the military political leadership of Armenia.
After the July fighting, another large-scale provocation attempt by the Armenian government on the front line was prevented. This time, the enemy trying to bring the sabotage group into our country from the direction of the Goranboy region received a deserved response. As a result of the determination of the Azerbaijani army, vigilance and professionalism of the military, the provocation group was neutralized. The commander of the Armenian sabotage group, Senior Lieutenant Gurgin Alberyan, was taken prisoner for initial interrogation. It said that the other side suffered heavy losses, but the Armenian press presents the situation in a different way, trying to deny the deaths of soldiers. However, Pashinyan's government did not manage to cross the front line and enter the territory of another state to commit provocations, violate the ceasefire, and thus condition the military escalation again. This incident once again confirms that the occupier never wanted peace and used all means to maintain the status quo. An analysis of the incident shows that official Yerevan is taking such steps to compensate for the defeat it suffered after the July provocation. Experts also predicted that similar attempts would be made soon because the enemy could not get the necessary support at the international level during the Tovuz incident. Finally, Nikol Pashinyan's internal pressures and open rhetoric of the political forces against the government demand the Prime Minister and his team create the impression that serious processes are taking place in the direction of Karabakh and thus redirect international attention to the region. However, as in April 2016 and July this year, the other side will inevitably face a fiasco. At the heart of a series of provocations in the Armenian government's intention to restore its diplomatic image along with the territories it has lost. However, the strength of the Azerbaijani army and the decent response to the enemy overthrew all the plans of the aggressor. In the world, Armenia is listing the series of defeats in the current year. The provocation of the enemy that could not disrupt the special session at the UN General Assembly at the initiative of Azerbaijan is yet another addition to the diaspora terror and Nikol Pashinyan's failure on the Hot Talk program. The act of sabotage and terrorist attempt in the direction of Goranboy should also be a signal to the co-chairs of the extremist group and the states that claim to be interested in maintaining security in the region. The continuation of such steps by Pashinyan, who received a harsh response from Moscow, Turkey and Europe to the July provocation, may lead to more consistent and large-scale operations of the Azerbaijani army.
The occupation policy of Armenia against Azerbaijan and its provocations on the border are in the spotlight of the world community. Turkish English language international news channel TRT World broadcast an extensive report on Armenia's military provocation in the direction of the Tovuz region of the border with Azerbaijan last month.
Azerbaijani soldiers here are dug in. They're observing, looking across no man's land, looking for any sign of movement. It's very clear here that tensions remain very high. The fighting could break out again on a moment's notice.
The TRT World's team filmed an edition in the Azerbaijani territories affected by Armenian aggression. Special correspondent Olbay Shahbandar said that the renewed clashes along one of the most sensitive borders in the world had brought him back to Azerbaijan, a country that he had come to know more and more over the years. He informed the audience about the provocation of the Armenian armed forces. He said both sides suffered casualties during the clashes. Tensions remain very high and the fighting could break out at a moment's notice. The clashes in Tovuz caused grave concerns and they could lead to another full-fledged war. Informing about the history of Tovuz, the correspondent notes that this region is one of the richest agricultural centers in Caucasus. The report shows the houses destroyed by Armenians and the condition of civilians. As it can be seen from other conflicts in the world, civilians are used to live in their homes, despite the worst conditions prevailing amid the fighting. The correspondent emphasizes, recalling that the latest clashes took place less than a week after Azerbaijani President İlham harshly criticized diplomatic negotiations with Armenia, which holds 20% of Azerbaijan's territories under occupation, including the Nagorno-Karabakh region. The report highlights the statement of Assistant to the President of Azerbaijan, head of the Foreign Policy Department of the Presidential Administration, Hikmet Hacıyev. Quote, "Actually, Azerbaijan had some expectations when Pashinyan came to power. An Armenian Prime Minister asked, let's give some time, we can make house cleaning in Armenia and prepare for parliamentary elections, and so on. And from Azerbaijan's perspective, we have provided constructive engagement in the negotiation process, giving it time, and also tried from our side to ensure a ceasefire regime. But unfortunately, we haven't seen reciprocity. Armenian side and Armenian government continued their destructive policy. First, it starts from the offensive military doctrine of Armenia that calls for new territories and new wars that are also publicly disclosed by Armenian defense minister." End of quote. The author notes the mass displacement of millions of Azerbaijanis forced out of their ancestral towns and villages in the occupied Karabakh.
Our violated rights. And as we prepare to depart Azerbaijan once again, I couldn't help but wonder how soon we would have to return to cover yet another outbreak of fighting. In this land of endless beauty, a conflict seemingly without end.
"152 cases of the novel coronavirus were recorded in Azerbaijan. 111 people recovered after treatment and were released home. One citizen who earlier tested positive for COVID-19 died. The overall confirmed cases in Azerbaijan have reached 35,426, with 33,104 recoveries and 519 deaths. The number of active infections is 1,803. To detect new infection cases, 878,667 tests have been conducted in Azerbaijan so far, reported the task force under the Cabinet of Ministers. That was all for the day. Thank you for being with us and see you next time.